you and who you are was formed at the level of your mind. Muslims, the same thing. I've already said the language reflects what's in our mind, of course. And likewise, the culture, other things like pancakes, reflects things that we value. Now, when we talk about what's in the mind of a people, and even of Muslims, we are talking about what we call worldview. Okay? Or sometimes we call that mindset. This is one word, really. Mindset. Now, trying to understand Muslims, you need to understand their worldview. Now, most of them grew up in very difficult environments, some of them in the desert. Muhammad was from the desert, Saudi Arabia. Mecca is in the desert. So the desert is a very difficult place. That affects the way you think and live and see the world. If you grow up in California, you see the world a particular way. If you grow up in New Mexico, you see the world even a little different way. That's what we call a worldview. Now, when we try to get to know a people, we usually look for three things. Some people say four, I usually say three. We try to explain what we know about them on the basis of beliefs, also values, and then finally behavior. That gives us their worldview. Okay? So this, in a sense, is what we're talking about when we say understand Muslims, understand their beliefs, understand their values, understand their behavior. Now, usually when we meet people, the first thing we see is their behavior. For instance, in the house you were in, Ying Yang, did they use chopsticks? No. Did they use their hands? No. They used something different. Knives, forks, spoons. Yes? I thought so. But when we go to China, now when I was in China, chopsticks. Now I can use chopsticks. Hooray for me. It was either that or you'd be hungry. You have to use chopsticks, right? I like chopsticks. I think that's a good way to eat, personally. And not take a fork, put it in your mouth, back in the food. No, chopsticks are much better. But usually. But it's hard to eat soup with chopsticks. I mean, you can get something out of the soup, but you can't get the soup. So you have to take the bowl and drink the soup. But in America, if they put soup in front of you, and you go like that, people go, oh. And you go, oh. That's culture, right? Okay. Now that's behavior. Some people, if they see you take soup, if you go into a restaurant, and you pick up the bowl and go, oh, those people from China, oh. So people judge on the basis of behavior. Now, in the Arab world, they drink soup. They don't eat soup. They don't use chopsticks. They use their hand, the right hand. Only the right hand. Not the left. The left is used for other things. like when you go to the bathroom. So you don't bring that to food. So you use your right hand. So if you eat with the left hand, they go, okay. So there's a cultural way to behave to eat with the right hand. Now, if their children are left-handed, they punish them. In many cultures, if you write with your left hand, slap your hand. We know more now that sometimes some people are better with their left hand or their right hand. Any of you play basketball? I play basketball. You play basketball? You shoot with your right hand? Can you shoot with your left hand? I shoot both right hand and left hand because I learned to use my left hand so I could shoot better. Okay. But normally, right hand. And I eat with my right hand, so no problem. Okay. But in Muslim thinking, in Arab culture, left hand is for other things. So their children, they don't want them to be left-handed. Now, some of them are educated now, so they change that. But basically, we judge on the basis of behavior. But the left hand is not good to eat with in their mind because they have beliefs. Now, beliefs are things we know are true. Now, some of them aren't true, but we think they are. So we say these are true. And if you don't believe that, you're wrong. We judge you. This is culture, the negative side of culture. Beliefs are things we know to be true. Now, some of those are religious, and some of them are not. So when I talk about culture, religion is only one part of it. Beliefs can be other than religious, or they might be what we consider to be true in religion. Now, if you lived in the desert and there were no roads, you would look for something to help you get from one place to another that never moves. And so for Muslims, they looked at the stars. And so the stars became very important in their beliefs. Even before Islam, they had a god among many, but an important god who was the moon god. The moon god was so important that they built their calendar on the moon. Now, the moon changes, but the stars don't. The moon sometimes is little and sometimes big. But it changes about every 29 or 30 days. The moon keeps changing. So they built their calendar on the moon. Now, our calendar is not built on the moon. So when we compare their calendar and our calendar, we have a different way to compute time. Okay. The calendars are different. So when they have holidays on their calendar, they come at different times during the year. It changes with the moon. But that's part of their beliefs in regard to the moon and the stars. So worldview not only looks at the world, it looks at the heavens. And it identifies things we know that are true, even if they're not. Now in Africa, they used to believe, and many of them still do, that the world is flat, not round. And so, their worldview is affected by that belief. But is it true? No. But they believe it. Consequently, several hundred years ago, when boats came to Africa, they came over the edge of the world and then arrived at Africa. When they sailed away and disappeared, they went off the edge. If they took people with them, where did the people go? Oh, they said, they went to the other world. There's a world here, and there's a world there. So they believe they went to the other world. Now, if you wanted to go with people who died to see them again and be with them, you would go on a boat and fall off and go to the other world. Many blacks from Africa got on ships thinking they were going to the other world with their ancestors. They believed that. Was it true? No. Not true in many ways. One, the world isn't flat, you don't fall off. We can prove that. Two, you don't find your relatives there, wherever there is. Now, that's a belief. We can't prove it, but we think we know. So what I'm saying is, beliefs, sometimes they're true, sometimes they're not. When we talk about Islam, we'll explain what they believe, but it's not always true. It is the way they see it. They think they know. Okay? But the second thing in worldview is values. Values are the things that are important to you. All right. If I ask you a question, what is the most important thing to you in life? What would you say? Now, I know all of you are good Christians. You would say Jesus. I know. Yes. Okay. Next to Jesus, what is most important to you? Now, I won't make you answer that, but some of you might say, well, my family. Many people would say, my family is most important. That's who I know, that's who brought me up, that's who I relate to. But maybe some of you, it's not your family. Maybe it's your brother or your sister. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a dog. I have a dog.